Hello everyone, I'm Anil once again. Welcome you back on my series of 30 days CIB course. So we have reached the chapter that is called time series. You might have seen many things are changing along with the time, and it is always assumed that growth is good and economy becomes better. Either you grow or stagnant. But the growth is always not good because sometimes growth may be harmful also. But in business point of view, the growth is always good. If I take example of our population is also growing along with the time, but that growth is not good for the economy of the country. But growth in the sense of industrial growth, growth in the income of the person, per capita income, it is considered to be good. And study of this variation along with the time is known as time series. That means the variation along with the time is divided into four parts, or you can say these are the secular trend, cyclical fluctuation, seasonal variation, and irregular variation. So now we'll think about what is secular trend. The trend which is changing over a long period of time. Maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, maybe 30 years, maybe 40 years, maybe 100 years also. One of the best example of secular trend is the consumer price index. Because consumer price index in the year 1947 was very less, but if you think about in the present scenario, the consumer price index is very high. But if you take a very small time, consumer price index is going sometimes down, sometimes coming up. But if you think about the over the time, the consumer price index is increasing. So whatever trend we are taking for over a long period of time, that is called secular trend. And second is the cyclic fluctuation. So cyclic fluctuation, one of the best example is the business cycle. Because business cycle always follow a cyclic trend. Sometimes ups are there and sometimes downs are there. And ups are called boom and down is called depression. And this cycle continue. So that we can say cyclic fluctuation. One of the best example is the business cycle that is followed BRDR. BRDR, boom, recession, depression, and recovery. And third one is the seasonal variation. Seasonal variation means the things which change along with the season. We can say requirement of some types of medicines which increase with the season. Like I'll take example of like flu or the cold case of the cold in during winter season. Visiting of tourists during summer season of hilly areas or requirement of raincoat or umbrella during rainy season. So these are the variations or examples or seasonal variations. Coming to fourth, irregular variation is that variation which is unpredictable. For example, earthquake, war, flood, tsunami, and other disasters are the irregular variations because these are not predicted or they're not regular. They may happen, they may not be happen. So these are the time series variation. So we remember like this. In the short form, we can remember like this: TCSI. Okay, TCSI means trend, cyclic, seasonal, and irregular. That's only thing about remembering. Sake, I'm just telling you. You can remember this. So to study all these variations, there is called one trend analysis. How the trend is changing. So we are moving ahead. This is called trend analysis. To study a trend helps to understand the historical pattern and event. That means based on the past data we can estimate the variation in the present, or we can estimate what is going to happen today, or we can say based on the data today we can predict trend in the future. So this study is called trend analysis. For the purpose of trend analysis, we'll be drawing one linear equation that is called y equal to a plus bx. And if we estimate the value of y, that become y cap equal to a plus bx. Same thing I have written here. Y cap equal to a plus bx. And this is the equation of one line. That means in this we are going to study the trend based on the linear condition. So here x is called independent variable and y is called dependent variable because the value of y is dependent on the value of x, where a and b are called constant. So what are a and b? B is the slope of the linear curve, or you can say straight line, and a is the intersection on the y-axis. I'll just show you once again here how a and b are related here. So once again, for the understanding point of view only, if this is the linear trend is there, so this is slope. This slope is will be b. Whatever slope is there, b, and this value on the intersection of y-axis is called the value as a. So in the previous video also we have found the value of b. How to find the value of b? So value of b is given by this formula. I write the formula here. Covariance xy divided by sigma x square. Covariance x and y divided by sigma x square. Sigma x is the standard deviation, and standard deviation is found with the help of sigma x is nothing but square root of variance. Square root of variance. Okay, so I am going to write here formula once again. What is covariance xy and divided by sigma x square. So here is the formula. So value of b will be like this: 1 upon n, keep it out and put one bracket. Bracket is not required. Bracket is not required here. So I have to move here. Sigma xy minus x bar y bar divided by 1 upon x sigma x square minus x bar whole square. So this value is very important. Why it is important? Because this will help you to find out covariance also. So this is the covariance. Upper part is covariance. Okay. And lower part is the sigma x square. And this value has been derived one more formula. So you must be thinking how I am written here. So I just write here what is the value of covariance. So in the previous video I have just told you. So I write here what is covariance here. Covariance is nothing but sigma x minus x bar y minus y bar divided by n. And what is sigma x square? Sigma x minus x bar whole square divided by n. So this is the simplified version of this. So this is the simplified, whatever written I have just now, this is the simplified version of this one. Now if you multiply, see, you have to remember this formula. I'll just repeat here, this you have to remember this formula only. Okay, why? This will help you to find out covariance. This will help you find out the sigma x square. So if you are required sigma x, you can just take square root of the denominator. Okay, that I repeat the formula once again here. 1 upon n sigma xy minus x bar y bar divided by, now replace y with x. So 1 upon x sigma x square minus x bar whole square. And one more simplified version is the just multiply n both sides. So you'll get the b equal to, one more simplified, the same as nothing but you can remember above formula also, sigma xy minus n x bar y bar divided by sigma x square minus n x bar square. So this formula, so both are same, only just I have done, I've multiplied n numerator and denominator. And now we are going to see the numerical, how to solve the numerical, just see here. This question has been taken by from your book only, ABM Advanced Bank Management, and same question I have taken here so that you can practice also. Okay, so you can see the question is here, number of ships loaded in harbor are given here in 2009, 98, 10, 105, 11, 116, 12, 119, 13, 115, 14, 156, 15, 177, and 16, 208. Now you see what the change is there. That means 98 to 105. How change is there? Increase in 7 numbers only. 105 to 116, increase in 11 numbers. 116 to 19, 3 numbers. 119 to 35, increase in 16 only. And 135 to 156, 21. And 156 to 77, again 21. So like this, and so on. So you can observe this increase in trend is not same. So this is not following any pattern. So when there's not following any pattern, you cannot predict what is going to happen in future. So how to find out? The question is that how to find out number of ships may be loaded in 2019. So for this purpose, we are going to establish a linear relationship between x and y. So we are going to write formula y equal to a plus bx. Here y is number of ships and x is the year. Means time. Time is x only. We are going to take here. So I have written the vertical form here. Same value I have written vertical form. See, time. I have written time here. I have number of ships. Okay. But if you take x this value and y this value, these values are very, very big. So your calculation will be very big. So avoid this condition, we follow one technique that is called code time technique. So we're going to convert this time into coded form. Okay, so what we'll do here, coded form is we'll take the middle value of this. Okay, so you just count there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 means middle value. So you just take here 2012 and 13, find out the mean of this. If it is odd number, you will get one mean only. Okay, so 12 and 13. So what is the mean? You will get 2012.5. Okay, you can do also, you can take the mean also by adding all this. No, adding all this and find out just sigma t divided by n. You can do all, but this is very easy shortcut technique. You just find out the mean of the middle two values. Now next, you subtract whatever the middle you found here, subtract from each value. Means 2009 minus 2012.5. So you will get minus 3.5. Similarly, you subtract 2012.5 from 10. So 2012.5. So you get minus 2.5. Similarly, 1.5, 0.5, subtracting. And 2013 onwards, if subtract, you get positive value because it is small. 2012.5 is smaller than 2013, so you get 0.5. So similarly from 14, 1.5, 15, 2.5, and 16, 3.5. So these are the value we got, t minus m. Now next comes, because we are getting these values as decimal, so you have to change to whole numbers. Okay, so what you have to multiply with the 2, because 0.5 can be removed with the 2, so multiply with the 2. You multiply each number with the 2. So 3.5 change to minus 7, minus 2.5 change to minus 5, minus 1.5 change to minus 3, minus 0.5 change to minus 1, and zero point 0.5 changes to 1, 1.5 changes to 3, and so on like this. So in this way we converted decimal number to whole number. So now this has become x. Now x has become very very small number. See, -7, -5, -3, -1, 1, 2. It's a very small. No? So this become x. So y remains same. There is no change in y. Y is same. Now x got x and y. Now you multiply x and y corresponding value. 98 to 7 will get to this. 105 to -5 you get -5 to 5 and so on. You multiply all the corresponding value. Okay. Now x square. That means you square the x. So -7 square 49, -5 square 25, -3 square 9, -1 square 1, 1 square 1, 3 square 9, 5 square 25, 7 square 49, and so on. Now you find out sigma x, sigma y, sigma x square, sigma xy. And y square is not required because it's not coming in the formula. Okay, now calculate here. Now calculate here. So we are going to get here. Yeah, sigma xy. So sigma xy will you get from here. So you add all this value. Some are negative, some are positive. So you will get 1266 as per this data. Sigma x square is here. This is sigma x square, and here is sigma xy. So we'll get this data. Next, sigma x will be equal to 0 because all negative positive are same. So sigma x equal to you'll get 0. Okay. So you can see sigma x will be equal to 0. Okay. Now next. Yeah, sigma y. And if you get sigma y you get from here. So 114. And y bar. So y bar is nothing but sigma y divided by n. Number of terms 8. So we'll get y bar. X bar you got 0 because sigma x is 0. So we'll get 0 here. So all values are here. Now see the formula of b once again. I just rewrite here formula. So you can remember here. I write the last formula. B. What is the value of b here? Just rewrite here. Sigma xy minus n. Minus n was there. Sigma xy minus n x bar y bar divided by sigma x square minus n x bar square. So this is the formula of b. Now put the value. Here sigma x bar equal to 0. So you can see here this value will not be here because both are equal to 0. So x bar is 0. Here also x bar equal to 0. This will go up. So what b we are getting here? So b will get here sigma xy divided by sigma x square. So you can remember this shortcut formula. Sigma xy divided by sigma x square to calculate the b. It will be very helpful not writing all these things. So you can remember for the examination point of sigma xy divided by sigma x square. Now put the value here. So what you are getting here, see, so b you will get sigma xy means 1266 and divided by 168. So if you calculate 7.536 is given here. Okay. Now what is the formula? That will be formula of linear relationship. Y cap equal to a plus bx. So if y cap equal to a plus bx bar, so bx bar is once again here 0. So what is y cap? So y cap is equal to a only. So a is equal to y cap. A equal to y cap. So that means what is the value of a here? So a we are getting here A we are getting here, A is nothing but y bar only. Okay, so y bar equal to a plus bx bar. So a equal to y bar because x bar is 0. As per x bar is 0. So a which we are getting 139.25. Now put all the value in the equation. We got b, we got a. So what is linear equation? Y equal to a plus bx. So this is your a, this is our b. So we got this is linear equation. Now we are going to calculate for the year 2019. So you just subtract whatever mean we found with the help of this. No, 2012 subtract and double this because we doubled also. No, so 2019 minus 2012.5 we get 6.5 and double this. So we'll get 13. So x equal to 13. Here you put x equal to 13. You put x equal to 13. So 139.25, 7.53 and multiply by 13 we get 237. So we got answer. Ships to be loaded is. So in this way, but after establishing a linear relationship between two variables, we can predict our trends for the future. Now moving ahead, we'll have arrived with a new chapter that's called estimation. So estimation is nothing but it refers to process by which we make inference about a population based on information obtained from a sample, because obtaining information from a population sometimes become very difficult because population is very big. So what we do, we take sample and we study the sample and we arrive at the result. Whatever result we are getting from the sample, we give the inference about the population also. Okay, so estimate are of two types. Number one estimate is the point estimate, and second is the interval estimate. So statistician use sample statistics to estimate population parameters. Okay, so what we do, we take the statistic, means we take sample, we study the statistics of sample and we estimate the population's parameter based on the result obtained from the sample. And in point estimate, we give the decision only point wise, exact value. We say only one value. Like example, we can say the cricket, we can say, okay, this team is going to score 250 runs like this. Okay, but in interval estimate, we give the interval like 250 plus minus 10. So your result may be to maybe 240 and it will vary up to 260 likewise. So an estimate of population parameter expressed in two ways. I already discussed here, point estimates and inter estimates here. Point estimates and inter estimates. Okay. Now coming to the confidence interval. Statisticians use a confidence interval to express the precision and uncertainty associated with the particular sampling method. Okay, that means there has to be one confidence level. I just here tell you the confidence interval consists of three parts. Number one is the confidence level. Number second is statistics. So statistics means mean, mode, median, and margin of the error. That means what is the margin of error? 10%, 5%, and so on like this. So what is confidence level? Confidence level is nothing but it describes the uncertainty of a sampling method. Statistics and margin of error defined an interval estimate that describe the precision of the method. Okay, like if you get some result out of that, so whatever the sample statistic result is given, the margin of error means if I write here, okay, 90 plus minus 10, so our result may go up to 80 like this and it may go up to 100. Okay, so if I likewise, so that means this error is your 10%. Okay, so one more example is given here. Suppose we compute interval estimate of a population parameter, and we might describe interval estimate as 95 confidence in level. This means that we used the same sampling method to select the different sample and compute the different interval estimate, and the two population parameter would fall within range defined by sample statistics margin of error 90% of the time. So what is the meaning of a 90%? That means whatever population parameters are here, two population parameters are here, and what is our sample statistics are here. So our two population parameters will fall within the margin of 90% of the time. That means whatever methods we have adopted for sampling, and we have collected the data, we have estimated the values, whatever the values we have found, that value is expressing, that means true population is falling that the 90% of the margin of that statistics. And why confidence intervals are preferred to point estimates? Because confidence interval indicates two things: precision of the estimates and uncertainty associated with the estimates. So these two things are very important: precision and uncertainty associated with this. So we always prefer confidence interval over the point estimates. Okay, so I'll define once again what is confidence level. It is nothing but probability part of confidence interval. Probability part of confidence interval is called confidence level. So confidence level is nothing but, I'll read it here, it is the probability part of confidence interval. Okay, so confidence level describe the likelihood that particular sampling method will produce a confidence interval that includes the true population parameter. Okay, so that means it will tell you likelihood, means probability, that what is the probability that that population parameter will lie in that sampling method. Okay, so suppose we collect all possible samples from a given population and computed the confidence interval for each sample. Some confidence interval would include the true population parameter, otherwise would not. So I'll take one example here how this is rated. Suppose 95% confidence level is there. So what is the meaning of 95%? 95% confidence level means 95% of the intervals contain the true true population parameter. And in that case, what is the probability? Probability will be 0.95. So that means your confidence level is directly related to the probability. If probability is 0.95, that means 95 confidence level is there, and 95% of interval contain the true population parameter. Similarly, if 90% confidence level is there, that means 90% of interval contains the population parameter, and so on. Like if a graph is there, our graph is like bell shape. So that means what is, if 90% is there, so 90% will mark like this. 90% will mark like this. That means 90% of the two parameters are there from where we have collected sample. They are lying on this interval. Okay. Now moving ahead, because I discussed here what is the margin of error. So in confidence interval, the range of values above the and below the sample statistics is called the margin of error. If I tell, okay, this student is going to get 70% marks, but I say, okay, no, plus minus 10. Okay, so that means he is going to get 60 to 80 marks. Okay, that means I will write yes, because 70 plus minus 10. So 70 minus 10 will be 60 and 70 plus 10 will be 80. So this is the range. What is margin of error? So margin of error is 10%, like this. Either you can say 10, if you express the percentage, then you can find the percentage also. In terms of percentage also, we'll convert. For example, I'll take one example also, like newspaper example is given here. Suppose you take local newspaper conduct an election survey and report that independent candidate will receive 30% of the vote. Newspaper state that the survey had 5% margin of error. Okay, and the confidence level is 95%. These findings result in following confidence interval. So we are 95% confident that independent candidate will receive between how many votes? 25% to 35%. Same thing, I take example now, because he is going to get 30% vote, but 5% error may happen. So that means 35 minus 5, 25, and 35 plus 5, 35. So he is going to get vote like this only. Okay. So many public opinions are conducted based like this only, but they don't report with confidence level. That is the main problem. Many public opinion survey report interval estimate, but no confidence interval. They provide the margin of error only. Okay. To clarify the interpret survey result, we need to know both. We are much more likely to accept survey finding if the confidence level is high. But if confidence level is high, variation will be more. Okay. If confidence level is more, your variation will be more. We'll do one numericals also, not today, but in the later videos. When you finish all this videos, we'll do a numerical based on this, how to calculate the this interval. So moving ahead, we are going to do some small numericals here. So you can see here, consider the following result of 10 tosses of a coin. So I have coined a coin, I have tossed 10 times. So what the result may happen? Result may be either head or tail. So if I consider, okay, coming head is a 1. One number, and coming is either head will come, so 1, and tail will come is 0. So because head is not coming. Okay. So estimate the probability of the head and estimate the standard error of your estimation. Okay. So I have taken here x denote the toss of single coin, further x equal to 1. I just told you if head result and x equal to 0 if tail result. And p is the random variable. P denoted by probability. Okay. Now find out the value. Now you add all these values. Add all these values means 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. So 3 and there. Just see here how many heads are coming here. The question 1, 2, 3. 3 heads are coming only. So 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1, 3. All will be 0. So you get what you will get 3 by 10. So in this calculation you will get 3 by 10 only. So 3 by 10 means 0.3. Okay, so estimated value is 0.3 only. So what is the standard error of the P? So formula is like this, square root P cap and 1 minus P cap and divide by n. So n is 10 here, P cap is 0.3 and 1 minus P cap will be 0.7. Multiplied here, divided by 10, you get 0.14. So estimated error is 0.14. Understood? So sometimes this question is also asked. You can revise this thoroughly. Okay, moving ahead, we'll take next question here. Suppose following data shows the number of problem from the practice problem set attempted by maybe some students may be there. 10 are there, randomly selected. Okay. Problem set. So how data is given 2, 4, 0, 7, 1, 2, 0, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Find the sample mean. Sample mean is very easy because it is a sample only. Just add them and divide by 10. You'll get the answer. Now see the answer. So I have added here, divide by 10, you get 2.2. Okay, you add all this. This means sigma x divided by n become the sample mean. Okay, now find the sample variance. Okay, the formula of sample variance. What is the variance? I just told you to remember the formula. Now I'll rewrite what is the variance formula here. Okay, so variance formula is sigma x minus x bar whole square divided by n. Anna? So if you variance, this is a variance only, or sigma x square. Variance is nothing but sigma x square also. Okay, if you take square root, it will be sigma. So x minus x bar, I have just put here value, Anna. But because very large population is there, so you have to put, to be more precise, you have to subtract minus 1, Anna, with the denominator n minus 1 to get more accurate result. Anna? To get more accurate, otherwise formula is sigma x minus x bar whole square divided by n. To get more accurate result, n minus 1. Okay, so I have subtracted here, see, uh, 2.2 minus 2.2, 4 minus 2.2, and so on, and divide by 9. So we'll get 4.4 is the answer. Okay, so answer B is 4.4. Here was 2.2. Now third is estimate the mean number of practice problem attempted by a student in the past week. Okay, now see here. So same here, mean, same question they have asked you, mean. They have used the word same mean because this will match with the your population. Okay, if data is accurate, so estimate the mean number of practice question problem attempted by a student in a week. So you are getting the same. Now fourth one is the estimate the standard error of the estimated mean. This question has come. This is very important. Standard error of the estimated mean. Now see the formula. Now see the formula here. Okay, see the formula here. Anna? Square root s divided by n. Square root s divided by n. Anna? So it is nothing but, you can rewrite here. What is square root s? Just see here. I found no 4.4. 4.4. 4.4 we got here. No? Mean number, square root of mean. What is the formula? I just rewrite the formula. Because formula is not written here. Okay. So it is a sigma x bar equal to sigma divided by square root n. Actually formula is this like this, square root n. This is the formula. This is the formula. So sigma, so to take square root like this, so you can take sigma square divided by n and take square root like this. So this formula they have written here. Now put the value. If you put the value here, 4.4 divided by 10, take a square root, means 0.44. If you calculate this, you get approximately something 0.6 and so on like this. So this formula is very important. Sigma divided by square root n, sigma x. So with this we'll finish our class, and the next class will continue bond theory. Bond theory is also very important, and very soon we'll upload that video also. And have a nice day. Enjoy. Good day.